Hi everyone, Professor Gustin here, and welcome to week 4 in microbiology, and we're going to be talking about eukaryotic microorganisms. So we've talked a lot about bacteria, and now we're going to talk about the eukaryotes, the fungi and protists, mostly fungi, just to give you a little background on that. So there's a lecture study guide on eukaryotic microorganisms. There's a few lecture videos. This isn't a really big unit. Um, there's not a ton of information, but watch those lecture videos. And then there's one of those adaptive learning lecture assignments from Connect. So go ahead and do that. I also have a lab. So there's a lab handout. The lab handout is not, the lab is not really on eukaryotic organisms. It's on what we call differential and structural stains, on how we can look at some unique structure in cells, in bacterial cells under the microscope. So hopefully you'll find that interesting. It's a really fun lab to do live, but at least there's some good virtual labs with this one. There's a lab assignment, like an adaptive learning one, that you'll do, and then the rest, 1, 2, 3, 4 virtual labs. You remember, oh, and then there's also a lab quiz. So I have all that on there. Remember, I posted an announcement last week that I was having some technical problems with taking late assignments. So, and honestly, it's really time consuming for me to do that. On top of that, to do all the record keeping it takes to know if an assignment's late. Believe it or not, Brightspace does not make that easy on instructors. But the benefit of getting half credit for a late assignment, it's pretty minimal, and most people don't do it anyway. But like I said, I'm going to put a couple bonus points on tests here and there just to make up for some points that you might have been able to regain by missing an assignment. You'll see missing an assignment occasionally is not a big deal. Missing a whole week can start catching up, but missing, one or two here and there is not going to have big impact on your grade. But try to keep up. So assignments are all due in on the Sunday at the end of the week at this time of the semester. So do all of those, your lab quiz. Now we have a couple other things that are going on this week. One is next week, week 5, we have our first lecture exam, but unfortunately we also have our first lab practical. So you have 2 big tests in microbiology next week. And I know I don't usually like to do that, and it's the only week I do that all semester, but it's the only way I could get all the assignments to fit in and for things to make sense and for the lab material. Anyway, it just is the way it is, and I'm sorry to do that to you, but you've got a lot of studying next week. So that being said, we don't have any other lab other than the lab practical, and I tried to make the lecture stuff not too tough. So, but you're going to have a lot of study next week. And so what you want to do is you want to get ready, you want to have that in your mind and try to take your lecture exam early in week 5, and then you can study for the lab practical, and then you can take that. Don't wait for both of them at the on Sunday of week 5. Your brain will explode. So anyway, do one, then study for the other, and then do the other. But in order to do that, you might remember from the syllabus that I said I'm going to be proctoring those. I'm going to try to, I've been using this Respondus proctoring for years, and it works out pretty well. I mean, there's always can be technical issues, so you want to practice it before you take the exam. And that means like a couple days before you take an exam, because you want to make sure it's going to work for you and get any potential problems worked out. So I have a couple things here. I have what is called Respondus Lockdown Browser and Monitoring Background. And there's a Word document here. Click on that, and it gives you some background, like what the heck is this? What am I even talking about? And there's also a link in there that has a little video about Respondus monitoring. But the basic thing is you need a camera on your computer, and I put that on the syllabus. You need some kind of webcam, and then you're going to need to download some software onto your computer. And if you are using a college computer. You can't download, if you borrowed it from the library, you can't download software. You have to go talk to them and they will download the software. So you have to go back to the office where you got the computer. If you have a Chromebook, you need to get a different device. I put in the syllabus that Respondus proctoring doesn't work with the Chromebook. Some folks get kind of nervous, like, oh my gosh, I'm being recorded. And I'm not watching you. There's nobody sitting there watching you, listening to you, but you are being recorded. And the program, what it does is it puts up alerts. I get a report on everybody's proctoring, and it will give me some alerts. Say this person has a couple things that seem funny. Go check out the video, and it brings me right to the place in the video um, where there might be a problem, and I can see, oh, well, they were just coughing or they were talking to their dog or whatever it is. So, so definitely read this and get a background on what's going on. Ask me if you have any questions about it. And then what you do is you take this Respondus practice quiz. And the Respondus practice quiz actually counts as 2 bonus points if you take it before your exam 1 due date. And what you will that'll tell you that Respondus is working on your computer. If you change computers on which you're taking a test, like you use your laptop for this one, but you're going to use another computer for your next test, you need to download Respondus onto that too. So if you switch your computers, you might want to do this Respondus practice quiz again. And you can take it as many times as you want. It will not delete your 2 bonus points. So use this, take it. For some reason, I'm having a hard time. Somebody took the Respondus practice quiz and the grade didn't go in the grade book. And this happened one time to me before. So I have record. There is a way I can look on here and see that you've taken it. It's just the grade's just not going in the grade book. So don't stress if you go to your grades and you don't see your Respondus bonus. I have record of that and I will update that. Also, it's a bonus. And the way our grade book doesn't count it as a bonus, but I download your grades into Excel when I do my calculations, and I do count it as a bonus. So, so hang in there with that. That'll get straightened out. Let's see. So we've got all this going on. You need to do your Respondus, read about the background, take the practice quiz. I just want to give you a little bit, since week 5, we're going to be taking those 2 exams. Let me just give you a little background on that. The lecture material, so we're in week 4 right now. The lecture material on exam number 1 in week 5 is the lecture material from weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. So ideally, you will just get those completed lecture study guides. Where is it? Lecture study guide. You'll just get this completed lecture study guide and you'll use them. You'll go down the learning outcomes and quiz yourself on them. You'll go down the vocabulary and quiz yourself on that. The test is 75 points. There's about 37 questions. It's mostly multiple choice, but there are some fill in the blanks. So you might need to know, some short answer, fill in the blank kind of things. I write the tests. They're not written by Connect. I use the lecture study guides and I go down and I write the question based on those lecture study guides and vocabulary. Don't underestimate how important it is to know vocabulary. A lot of times I can look at a multiple choice question, and even though it looks like I asked you something, in one of the learning outcomes, if you were just to know the vocabulary words, you could have gotten the question right. So don't underestimate the importance of knowing that vocabulary as well as the learning outcomes. So those lecture study guides should be completely filled out and you should be able to just page through those and study that way. The lab practical, so we have exam number 1 next week. We also have lab practical number 1. The lab practical is material taken from the lab handouts, the completed lab handouts from weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you ever took a lab practical in a live class, you might have walked up to a microscope, looked at something, and there was a question. Looked at a prop sitting in front of you. Maybe if it had anatomy, you saw there was a bone sitting there, and it would say, what's this part of the bone, or what's the skeleton? Name these bones. Those kind of things. So in microbiology, what I end up doing with the lab practical here is I'll give you pictures. And a lot of those pictures are going to be things that were in your lab handouts or something very similar. So again, all the information on your lab practical should be in your lab handouts from week 1 to 4. Um, Even if I had a virtual lab in the lab handout, you don't need to go back and redo the virtual lab. Look at the questions I had under the virtual lab. So it listed the virtual lab and there might be a couple questions. Those couple questions are the things I would ask you about on the lab practical. So the lab practical, again, it's mostly multiple choice, but there are a bunch of short answers like name this piece of lab equipment, those kinds of things. What part of the microscope is this? Um, those kinds of things. So make sure you look all that over and make sure your lab handouts are all complete. So next week is a big week. We're doing Respondus this week to get ready for that. And we're also doing all this eukaryotic microorganism stuff to get you through week 4. Contact me if you need any help or anything's going on. Please remember, did I say this already? I'm not accepting late assignments anymore. Um, we're Yeah, I did. We talked about this at the beginning. All your assignments are due on your due dates that are set. If you're having a huge life-changing problem, let me know. I try to help you out if something big's going on. But get those assignments done otherwise. All right, you guys. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. You got a lot on your plate for the next 2 weeks, so hang in there. Take care. Bye-bye.